There he is.
There she is.
There he is.
Re-adjourn.
We are adjourned. Do I need a motion to re-adjourn or just coming out of executive session means we are?
Public session.
I'm generally, what is she talking about? Okay, let's rise for the pledge of allegiance, shall we?
There you go.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I apologize for my. Jeff, I'm gonna hand it over to you and stop that.
All right. Good evening. Very brief report tonight. Considering it's the summer, I know we have a little bit of listening to me later in the State of District presentation. So I just want to share with you the capital project communication plan, living document. So always kind of making changes to it, but just kind of listed for you in chronological order the dates or the tasks and the events that we've kind of planned out at this point. First, Music in the Park. We thank the town of Sand Lake for welcoming us there. Set up a table. Scheduled to go to a Kiwanis meeting. And I know Tony's going to join me at Music in the Park. And the Kiwanis meeting is going to be, at this point, with Tony and Carrie. I will not be here. Then we have our video series starting. We just recorded today the summary, which is me. That'll tentatively schedule out the 22nd. Mark set up a Booster Club meeting. Their August meeting moved it for us because it was originally on the 19th. We had a conflict with Kiwanis. So we're going to meet with the Booster Club on the 26th. Next video is financial. That's going to be Carrie and Adam. And part of that's already been recorded too. Planning to hopefully go to another Music in the Park event. We have our newsletter coming out early September. On that same day, we have the ice cream socials at the 3 elementaries. Video coming out the next couple days after that. That's going to be the long-term plan. That'll be Tony kind of explaining the current capital project, the next one, and then what's kind of coming after that. We have the Algonquin open house, a couple more videos, one focusing on the exterior work, the other one focusing on the interior work that's being done. We have a bunch of guest speakers for that. Everyone from Rob and Dennis, got some of the work going on in their buildings, to Coach Averill, who came by today to talk through what's going on with the track and the court and the locker rooms and some of the improvements that are needed there to maintain the facilities and some of the safety concerns. Mark Primo, Billy Sansone, we have a whole bunch of people who are going to kind of speak to different parts of the project and how it will improve things, make things safer and better. The Averill Park open house, followed by, fortunately, our first home football game is right before. We're nervous it's going to be after. That is actually our first home game, so that's the Friday before the vote. The day of the vote, we have boys soccer here, and then to be determined, we're looking to have hopefully a little meeting with the Sand Lake Fire Department. So that's the general outline right now, what we're looking to do. Frequently asked questions and the talking points infographic are done and are ready to go. And our architect Mosaic is getting us together some large signage that we can use as well and be able to display, as well as I think a video on a loop that we can show some of these things too. So
At the football game, besides just having a table, whatever you want to call it, the mobile informational.
yeah, I think it's going to be a table with a skirt on it and
you.
some flyers. Yeah.
Are you gonna make an announcement at the football game?
Yes. Yes.
Good answer.
Coming too.
Because I think people would tend to walk by a booth, but if you make the announcement, that might be something, oh, we need to go find out about that.
Yeah,
or,
that's a good
yeah, that's a
idea.
good reminder, or whatever the case might be. And you usually have a pretty good audience there.
That's a good idea.
It's free hot dog and a puppy.
And a puppy.
Just saying, I'm coming now.
Shameless plug as a connecting. This is the document if anyone is looking to join any of those events. We have some people who have signed up already. So if you have an interest in attending some of those, that document was shared with the board. So feel free to hop on that. And that concludes the report. There's no video because of the summer. So that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jim. That was easy. Okay, this is our first public comment period for items on the agenda. We have no blue sheets or people.
We have no
No public. Hopefully they're out doing, things. So we will move on to approve the minutes of the July 15, 2024 meeting. Jesse first, Adam second. Any discussion on the July 15 minutes? Which incorporated both the Leo and Canada comment. Hearing no comments, all those in favor of approving those minutes from July 15th? All those in favor? Oh goodness, that is true. You guys, Michelle, we didn't have we do not have a quorum, we have to table these. Okay. Right, because there's only two of us to vote. What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll hold those over until we'll approve these minutes and those minutes. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 6, business, 7, personnel, and special education. 8, a motion to approve consent agenda. Jesse first, Jess D first, Jess Z second, discussion. Yep.
Just a question for Jim. The Yankee Trail stuff, we only use those buses when we can't cover it with our internal staff and equipment, usually due to like lack of drivers, is that right?
Yeah, so the Yankee Trails, yeah, they're used when we've gone through the process of not being able to use our own staffing. Sometimes for trips, sometimes it's for getting kids to game, sometimes it's for one trip.
Okay, yeah. And then item 7AA, just sort of point of procedure, the athletic appointment coaches. Can we please set aside the vote for the boys varsity soccer head coach and vote on that one separately? It's just- Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll pull that one out and we'll move forward with what's on the table for the consent agenda.
I have a question
Oh,
on
you have
the,
more questions, sorry.
on the clubs and advisors. We pay stipends to advisors, club advisors? That's not something that's,
They're part of that budget. We haven't had we used to have a detailed one. Every budget season, but I see them not.
I mean, they have line items in budget.
Yeah, they do have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're asking, it's usually teachers and they're doing, you know, something.
Michelle, is your question, do we pay our club and advisors at the site?
yes,
Yeah.
that is my question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That's part of the collectively bargained contract with this teachers association.
okay. And I guess, do we have access to see that? Or access to that?
Yeah, it's in the contract. I can send it to you.
Okay, I was just curious.
Contracts on.
Yeah, the contract is online too. I can send you
Okay.
the most recent one.
Procedurally, do we need to remake a motion to approve the consent minus
That's right.
7AA?
Yeah, it's probably should.
It's not 7AA, it's a subset.
It's a
It's
subset.
just the boys varsity soccer head coach. Talking about separately.
That one element of 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll separate them
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can't,
no, it's
I
okay.
just get to them.
I have,
So do we need to take, if we had 2 motions to put this, to open it for discussion, do we take that, we don't need a motion to take it off?
but I think we need to have a motion to pull, which I think Adam made.
Yep.
7AA subset.
boys varsity soccer head coach.
Yeah, so if there's no discussion on any other topics, we could still discuss that and then make a motion, Jesse, to.
Well, I think we're still on the consent, so we still have time, but I
Yeah.
felt like Adam made a motion, but it just wasn't seconded.
Oh, I thought he was asking a question, I'm sorry, I heard it as him
I
saying,
was
can I
asking
do
a
this?
question. I think the motion, I don't think there's a set, I think the motion to approve consent agenda items gets adjusted to
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
approve
what I
the
was saying.
consent agenda items absent item 7A, subset boys varsity soccer head coach.
So I'll pull this off the table,
Okay.
ask for a motion to do it without the subset, and then do the subset on the phone. But before I do that, was there any other comments on other issues within the consent agenda? So Michelle had a question about clubs advisors, that's gonna be taken care of.
And I just wanted to thank the American Red Cross for their scholarship.
Michelle, you good?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I
this
don't
is
think, I don't think it's gonna pass anyways, because I'm not gonna vote yes, so I don't think you got quorum on it, so. Because I have
On
a
the
couple
whole
other
consent
questions.
agenda?
I have a couple other questions on some clubs and some of the schools, so I just want to get clarity on. So I'm not gonna be a yes on full consent either right now.
So is it just that
My-
one? Do we
Oh, wait,
pull
we're in
that
discussion,
one?
right?
Yeah, we're in
We're in
discussion.
discussion.
We're not
Now
voting
it's
yet.
gonna ask the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't send the email in advance, so I,
See if they can answer. Maybe.
We'll give it a shot.
Okay, well, so the thing that I have a concern with is I would like to know what the intent is with the Saga Club at the middle school. I've had some parents question the relevance of it at the middle school age level. So, that particular club, I didn't even, I guess, realize was happening, so I was curious. So if you want to get back with me on that.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you an answer now if you want, or,
It's up to you.
yeah, I mean, essentially, the club has been in existence there for a while. And I think the theory or the belief behind the club is a lot of support and scholarship for students who are interested in that club, just like the other clubs that we have. I don't know.
I guess the question would be, it's like more sexual based, like I almost, the attention is being drawn to versus at that age appropriate level, like what is the age appropriate level of that and having that emphasis on it,
Right.
I guess is the concern. So, I don't know.
Okay.
Just curious, I mean, I know like it's already in existence, so it's not like,
Right.
does that make sense?
Mhm.
So,
So do you want to pull that one out for a separate vote, or?
I'm okay with everything else on the agenda other than, so yeah, if you want to approve all of.
And that would just be the Algonquin.
And for the record, you do have quorums for.
Yes. Oh, but if, oh, right.
So
Yes,
quorum
for
is
me.
four.
Adam has to pull
I'm
that
sorry,
one.
you are so right, I'm.
Quorum is four.
Yeah, because I was looking at both,
Yeah,
you
so-
have, I'm
okay.
thinking 3-2 because of the earlier, yeah. So okay. So
You would handle
I
it essentially the
would-
same way you're handling.
Right.
7 delay, yeah.
But you're right, you would still have quorum, so you were right, I miscounted.
Oh, so does that change whether, I mean, yeah, so we could still
So
pull
you
that
can
out
still
and get a little
edit
more.
with the
I would,
way
I
it
would
was
do
going.
exactly what you're going to do.
Yes.
If you haven't, I just pointed out to you.
And again, just to get a little more granularity in terms of what they're doing, and I like, so when I read it, the sexuality acceptance, like there's sexuality versus sex education, I do not believe that it's a sex. It doesn't take the place of the facts class and the health classes that they have in school. That's how I do that, but yeah, it's a student support, right? So that is I, right? That is 7I. So we'll pull 7I and 7, a subset of 7A. Okay. If everybody's comfortable, what I'll do is we'll take this motion off the table and I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda without 7AA, the boys soccer coach, and without 7
Varsity soccer.
varsity side, thank you, good catch. And without 7I, clubs and advisors of Algonquin. I get that right? I don't think I missed anything. Jesse first, Michelle second, she needs to do that. Okay. Discussion on the consent agenda minus those 2 items. Discussion good. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving that which is on the table. Okay, that is unanimous. And then then we'll do, we'll bring up a motion to this.
Did first and second.
Me and
Jesse
Michelle,
and then.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve consent agenda 8I,
7I?
7I, yes, 7I, sorry. That's a close, yeah.
That's the, okay, discussion on the clubs. Jesse, did you raise your hand to talk or?
No,
You thought you'd get a second in before Adam, didn't you?
no, he's too quick for me. So I'm good as that.
It's a fast bunch here. Discussion on 7I, clubs for Algonquin. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? That is for Jesse, Jess, Adam, and Samantha. Any against? Michelle, any abstentions? Nope, that's none. And I need a motion to approve 7AA, subset of boys varsity soccer coach.
Wait, discussion first.
Discussion, I need a motion
You
to
need
put it
a
on the table.
motion
Okay.
and approval of, yeah, you need your motions and then discussion.
Got it.
So, Michelle first, I need a second to put 7AA, Jesse. Discussion, sorry about that. Discussion.
Yeah. Is it the same coach as last year?
Yes.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving boys varsity soccer coach, 7A. That is 3, that does not. All those against? That is 2 against. No abstention because that's none. And that does not pass.
3-2.
3-2. Yeah. Did you get who?
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
This might be my first. Jim, do I keep going?
Yep.
Okay, just gonna keep going. You never done. I need a motion to approve the revised school district calendar. Adam? Second, one, Jess D. Discussion on calendar. Jim, this
Do we know
is
what
a really,
changed?
it's a small, yeah.
It was just recent days at the end.
That's dictated by the state, right?
Yes.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, revising the calendar, that's unanimous. We need a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the Averill Park Central School District and the Administrative Support Employees Association regarding interim network engineer per the attached we all had. Jesse Z and then Adam. Discussion. Any questions we want to elaborate we good to go? This is just Travis, to keep Travis on. Good, okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving 9B? That's unanimous. 9C, I need a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the Averill Park Teachers Association and Averill Park Central School District regarding the van butler eligible employees for call movement yeah, for the attached that we received. I need a motion. Adam first, Jesse Z second, discussion, Michelle.
I felt like there was a column movement. I guess I was a little confused by this in general. I read it, but I didn't. I thought that that was the negotiation that we had approved.
Correct, so this is just cleaning up some stuff that was kind of kicked during that negotiation. There's some stuff that we moved, not wanting to slow down the process, and this was kind of the last blow that we were telling. So just to finalize, there were some people who were kind of caught in the middle, who were being grandfathered in.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is going to be it,
Yeah,
and then it's done. Okay.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving 9C? All those in favor, that is unanimous. And I need a motion to approve the Averill Park High School Volleyball and Invitational overnight trip. Jess T. and Adam seconds, and any discussion? I just wish the volleyball team luck.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been watching the Olympic volleyball, and it's super exciting, and it's just a great sport. What can we say? Has nothing to do with the fact that it's bad. All right, it's so fun. Molly, yeah, maybe Molly will be there in Penfield someday. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Good luck. Okay, I need a motion to approve the safety team need a motion to approve the safety team members and representatives for 24-25 school year 10A. Adam, and I need a second. Michelle, do I need to read all the names into the public record?
It's attached.
It's attached.
Just like every other.
Yeah, I don't know why, because it's the way it's, I'm gonna leave that be. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor? All right, thanks to everybody doing that, that's unanimous, Linda. I need a motion to approve the district-wide 11A district-wide safety plan. Jess D first, Jess Z seconds. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? That's unanimous, and again, thanks to the safety team for all their work. A motion to approve 12A, the building level safety plans for 24-25 school year. A motion to approve that. Adam, a second please, and Jesse Z. And any discussion? Yes.
Actually, this goes for all of them, but we appreciate the hard work and the planning efforts that the team and the administrative staff who is in charge of all these and everybody else who contributes, because it is a lot of work and we really need to keep our kids safe. And so we appreciate the work.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, building level safety plans, unanimous, thank you. And professional development, I need a motion to approve 13A, professional development plan for 24-25 school year. Adam first, Jesse, seconds, discussion, professional development. Jesse.
Again, thank you for all the work that goes into this, because keeping everybody top shape is good. We appreciate that too, and I know our teachers help to learn also, as well as all the other employees of the district.
Yeah, I just want to second that. There's I was just talking to Jeff about continuous improvement is a concept, and we're using it here for the most important product for our kids' products. All right, all those in favor of approving 13A professional development plan for 24-25, Jess, your signature, that's unanimous as well. And I need a motion to approve 14A code of conduct for 24-25 school year. I need a motion to approve that. Adam? And Jess, you guys got like a, did you like, all right, discussion on the code of conduct.
Who writes the code of conduct?
I do.
You do.
Individual.
You're just the man.
I just whipped it together. No, it's
ChatGPT.
written a long time ago, we just kind of edited, it's reviewed by our attorney, every year, and he's brought to the public session, the public hearing for comments. So,
It's tweaked every year.
Yeah, there's always somebody, so like no Matt,
This year.
the AI got their.
AI.
The AI language.
Did an edit?
No, AI,
No,
I don't want to say that
Yeah,
AI.
language.
We had some language
No,
about
no,
it.
yeah.
But
That gave me a lot of anxiety.
I realized how that sounded coming in, my apologies.
I'm curious, is there a reasoning behind the dress code being so lax at the elementary level? For instance, an example would be elementary students wearing crop tops to school. Is that like, I've seen in the high school, it like phrases that, like specifically no midriffs showing, so forth, is there? The high school and middle school have a more strenuous, is that a better,
Yeah, I think that's,
dress
yeah,
code
yeah.
than the elementary? Is there a purpose or intent behind that, or do we not think that at that level it would cause distractions in
I-
school?
Yeah,
Maybe that
I
was
think
the
it's just the
purpose
way it's been, and,
historically,
yeah.
I was just curious.
Well, I wonder that it doesn't, I guess.
If page 35 wasn't in there, it would concern me a little bit, but 35 is in there for the middle school and high school. Just to take more distractions away from what we already have and battling against.
Well, I wonder if it just hasn't been an issue. Back in the dating
Yeah.
myself.
Just curious, I mean, old school stuff, I guess it's like.
Yeah.
It probably just goes unnoticed.
Well, because the majority, I think it's probably less, I'd like to think it's less of an issue, right? It's like
Must
in
be.
real time, yeah, right?
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay.
Yeah, I know myself. Well, because sixth grade was, so when I went to school, sixth grade was still in elementary school. And so in my mind, we had sixth graders. Those days, we were all those. Some of us. All right. Is that, are we,
I was
Yeah.
just curious.
no, that's. Any further discussion on the public comment? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving this code of conduct as written, 24.5. That's unanimous as well. Thank you, guys. And I need a motion to approve the I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk here. Approve the authorization for the duties of tax collection. Jess Z, Jess D seconds. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of item A, that is unanimous. I need a resolution to approve the resolution to establish a tax warrant, 24-25 school year, in the amount of practices, $36,150,533 to authorize the tax collector to give notice to begin collection of taxes on September 1, 2024, in accordance with section 1322 of the property tax law per the attached. Adam first, I need a second. I need a second on it. And Jesse, any discussion on 15B, the tax warrant in the amount of $36,150,532. Can you tell the price of it? Okay, hearing no discussion, Jesse, was that no? Okay, I wasn't sure. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the tax warrant as noted. Okay, that is 4 in favor. Oh, okay, all in favor, unanimous. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. State of the district presentation. Jim, do you have the lights on or off?
Can you guys see it okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
All right, so, thank you for this opportunity to do the State of the District presentation. It's something that I started a few years ago now, this is year 8, probably done it 5, 6, 7 times. So what we look to do is just kind of a yearly recap of what has happened in the district, largely to kind of remember, summarize, and have a kind of document of what's been done and to celebrate the accomplishment. I think a lot of work happens and then goes on, and we move on to the next agenda item, next process, next issue, and I think it's kind of good for us to reflect a little back in terms of what we've done this year. So it's a long presentation, there's no doubt about that. I will try and go as quickly as possible, but still want to give each of the slides their rightful amount of attention. So the year in review. Start off with our goals, which you are aware of. We tweaked the language on the first one, graduate with college and career readiness. So those 3 goals have now been consistent, especially the last one now for a few years. Relatively engaging in our community, being digitally fluent. Our mission, which we talk about all the time and try and make this our guiding work, meet the needs of, create opportunities for our students every day, is what we strive to do every day. We talk a lot about that. What's talked about a little bit less is our vision, which is our long-term plan, and that is to create passionate learners who contribute positively to the community and the world. So if we're doing our mission every day, ideally we're getting to that vision. When we did this process years ago, we also went through our core values, responsibility, community, growth, and respect. And an oldie but goldie slide that has been part of this presentation since the beginning is the alignment of the arrows. And when I talk about this, we usually talk about the left side and the random acts of improvement, and how in many organizations, there's a lot of good things going on, but they're not necessarily all pointed at the right direction. What we have tried to do is what's on the right, and we thank the board for adopting those goals every year, because it really ends up being the basis for the goals, which turn into our SMART objectives, which turn into our action steps, which turns into the work that's going on in the classroom with our students. So going into the goals, these are now updated. We have all the 4th quarter data in. First goal at the high school, graduated college and career readiness, looking at having 85% of students pass. The high school got to that point, an increase of 2% from 22-23. In the end, 88% of the students passed all of their classes. High school did a great job with their structured study halls and their advisories, and really helping and pushing kids through and getting them what they needed to do to get these classes passed and the credit they needed. So we thank the administration, the faculty, and the staff at the high school for working hard on that one. Middle school had 80% of their students passing all their classes at the end. You can see they surpassed that each quarter, and then certainly at the end with 92% of their kids getting to that point. So good work there by Algonquin. Excuse me again. At the elementary, students in grades 1 through 5 improving their reading fluency, looking to go from 65 to 67%. As you can see, this is one goal we did not meet, and you can see at those bars, the line kind of goes through it, but overall we got to about 62% there. So this has been the topic, obviously, of some discussion here, led by Matt, principals, our teacher leaders. As we continue to look at ways to improve this, we want to use the goals as our basis and our stepping stone, and try to actually learn from them and raise that bar. So we're looking into that and things that can be done next year with our curriculum, with our interventions at Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and how we can improve the program that we're offering. Going on to goal 2, productively engaging in our school community. If you look at the high school, they wanted to have at least 72% of students engaged in one or more activities, including athletic programs. They got to that magic number exactly at 72%. So again, good work there. Congratulations to the high school. At Algonquin, looking at 85% of students answering positive to those 2 questions about having an adult who cares about them, or adults treat students fairly and with respect. You can see that they surpassed their goal of 85 and got that number into the 90s. So again, nice job at Algonquin. And the elementary school, they're looking for 90% of students in grades 2 to 5 to identify that they have an adult that they can count on, and that's measured by the survey, the engagement survey we give them. And pretty high numbers there, again, impressive. So nice work by our elementary folks at 94%. Moving on to goal 3, which is digital fluency. At the high school, they want to establish a digital portfolio team, develop a vision there for how to implement the digital portfolios, and the end result is they have the pilot ready portfolios are in the app suite, and they've been collaborating with Algonquin, PD for teachers, sample projects, passion projects are moving in that direction. So positive work there again by the high school. At Algonquin, they're looking to have 100% of their teachers participate in a gap analysis of the computer science learning standards. They achieved that result by getting all their teachers through that. And then finally, at the elementary, demonstrate learning on a topic by choosing a digital tool to create an artifact to be stored in the drive. Didn't quite get to 100%, but got to 97%, so obviously still very impressive. So overall, I think if you look at the goals, 3 levels, the 3 goals, some good work done there and accomplishing those and striving to get to those goals. We want to keep raising the benchmark and moving positively, but overall very positive, and thank our faculty, our staff, our administration for their work on those goals. Moving on to the Board of Education. We formed an advocacy committee this year and did quite a bit of work, meeting with elected officials in NYSBA, participating in some events. Passed the tax exemption for firefighters and ambulance workers. Looked at the retreat again, which has now become an annual event and function. We had folks attend the NYSBA conference, and for the first time, we had professional development recognition by multiple board members. So that was some of the work that the Board of Education did. In the world of communications, it was a little bit of a year of transition, right? We started with Brian, who was since been promoted, and then we had Avi for a little bit, and now we have Austin, a former student of ours. So a little bit of transition in the communications department, but as you can see, a successful year, earning some national awards. Our podcast has now surpassed 80, and we're consistently doing our 2 newsletters, fall community newsletter, budget newsletter, and the community education newsletters. Really 3 factor that's a budget one. And our social media averaging 100,000 plus views per month. We haven't looked at the data honestly in a while, but the last time we looked at that, we are factually aware that our social media footprint is much, much larger than it should be compared to corresponding districts. So we're among the top of that total. So
On the podcast, I listen to probably half of them when I'm traveling, and they're pretty good. Do you know, like on average, how many listens you get?
I used to. We haven't looked at that again recently because the number kind of started to level out. Last time I knew we were around 400 or 500, so which was pretty high
Like per episode?
per episode.
Wow,
Yeah,
good, that's great.
it varies a
Must be
bit.
popular, Adam.
Apparently.
It varies a bit. There's no doubt, like when there's students on, it goes up. Yeah, so we had some trends that we identified, but it grew for a while and then kind of held steady. So to be honest, again, I haven't looked at it in a while, but we knew we were reaching a pretty good audience with it. Safety team has been busy, recognized again with the Utica National Safety Award. That's a titanium level, which is the highest level, which we've gotten for like 100 years in a row now. We get these plaques, we hang them up, and we kind of make jokes about it in some ways, but it's the highest level of achievement year after year after year. So it is quite an accomplishment. And again, some transition. Lisa Lyons in the middle there as our new specialist from BOCES, and has done a great job as we had some transition there. Secure vestibules, that was the work of our capital project. So Algonquin and the high school now have those secure vestibules in place. We worked with Questar on training. They do a nice job, led by Craig Hansen's folks over there with safety, and we were able to attend those trainings. And then a major lift that we accomplished last summer was rekeying all of the doors. So every door in the district was rekeyed, and that really came from some safety stuff. If you looked at some of the unfortunate events that happened, the law enforcement response, we saw some of those folks where we had a person basically handing the responding officers a key to get in the building. At one point here, I don't mind talking about it because it's past tense, Brian Nichols was carrying what felt like 100 keys with him. Billy Sansone and Aaron Hefner had keys on top of keys, and not all the doors were still open. So that's a problem because they can't get to spaces that they need to get to in unfortunate events or just emergencies that are time sensitive. We have now got that down to minimal keys. I literally carry 1, and that gets me into every building. There's only a few of those because we've really limited. It's a hierarchical system that we worked with a vendor on. They were great, and now we've gotten that down. So, Brian Nichols, for example, and we also have keys that are available for law enforcement in their vehicles in our Knox boxes. It's one key to get them into everything. So this was a large lift. And again, we talk about the work that Aaron and his people do. That was done all internally. The vendor obviously did the keys because you need some of that, but they took them all out and they put them all back in. And we did that all in the summer last year. In terms of community relations, we changed the community engagement team to a community forum. That was an effort to expand the reach. Remember, it was kind of invite only in the beginning. We wanted to open it up to more people. We did 4 forums this year, three or four, I believe. Worked with the town of Post on the water district creation. The board voted to support that. Carrie went and registered the district vote, and that passed. Working with some people on a biking and walking trail for Sand Lake, and being a partner in that. Something that we took some pride in is the relocation plan. Given all the work that was being done in the district, Algonquin was full to capacity, but we knew we had 2 very good town partners in the town camp, which is now a combined camp of Post and Kill and Sand Lake, as well as GCC. And we were able to work with them to find space, either at Algonquin in the case of the town camp or at the shack for the GCC. We've added a new partner, Arts, Letters, and Numbers, which is an organization that's housed here in the community, and they've been working with our high school on providing opportunities for our students. And of course, the Warrior Naming process, which we tried to engage the community as best we could with a student-led group, and the work with Heath and Mark to lead them, and kind of surveying and getting that to the next spot. Excuse me. From athletics, named a school distinction by NISFA, which was a big honor. Our football team got to the regional final. Boys wrestling won their first Section 2 championship, and the girls basketball team made it back to the state Final Four. So those are some of the highlights in the athletic department. Excuse me again. Last year, like we did, Matt was going to do the teaching and learning, Kim was going to do HR, and Carrie was going to do business. And then 2 of the 3 of them didn't show up tonight. So I'm back for the whole thing. Labor relations, we looked at some of the HR stuff, negotiated a contract with APTA, and had a really, I think, successful process there. Consider APTA to be a partner, and got to a good spot. We thank them for their partnership and support throughout. And we've begun negotiations with our managerial confidential folks. They formed a new group, the Administrative Support Employees Association. That's ongoing and is still in process, but we're getting to good spots with that too. And we are encouraged with all those developments on the labor front. Concerned to staff development, our staff well-being. Our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program, is continuing to grow, and we're actually showing pretty good utilization there. That was something we added during the pandemic and have been able to keep. Our Employee of the Month recognition program has been popular. We've been doing that every month, usually 2 different folks, kind of on the instructional side and sort of on the non-instructional. We worked hard to improve our tenure and retiree celebrations. I think we have a much better product that really gives a little more focus and attention to folks who really deserve it, right? People who've earned tenure, which is a big thing, or people who put years and years of service here into the district. And we've really tried to make those more valuable and meaningful and memorable. New law passed by the state, the Workplace Violence Prevention Act, that they did and then gave us like a week to get a policy, a process, everything else on it, right? Like everything else, kind of rushed through it by the state, but we have a policy. And we've had some good work. Again, there was a shared process involving the associations and representation from them, led by Kate and the people involved in that. Kim was involved heavily in getting that passed and through and getting us operational, and that was a big lift. And then we've had staff engagement survey results, and those have been very positive. So encouraged by that, some of the work that we've done to find that overall staff seem to be pretty happy. Also had a successful year in terms of hiring high quality teachers and administrators. 15 new teachers, 2 new administrators in the past year. And again, I think we're very impressed and very happy with the quality of the people that we've been able to bring in. Very fortunate. Excuse me. On the teaching and learning side, we've continued to work with our PLCs, our professional learning communities, which has really become the foundation of the work that we do on the academics. You can see the poster right above Linda. That poster's in a lot of different places. It answers the 4 questions of the PLCs that we are trying to constantly strive to answer. The MTSSI grant is something that we applied for and got money from the state. We're able to work with a person from the University of Albany who's guiding that work at the elementary level. Again, building a larger system of supports. Curriculum renewal, you know all about that. We saw those presentations recently to the board by the different groups. Matt's been authoring a furniture pilot. We're now in cohort 2, where we're looking at kind of cutting edge and new furniture and how, not just having the furniture, but how that's improving instruction. You learned at the retreat about the artificial intelligence R&D team and the work that we're doing there to keep that at the focus of where we're headed. Our DEI committee focused their work this year on belonging, which you're going to see, I apologize, what you're going to see as we move into goals for next year, really focusing on belonging, make sure all of our students feel a sense of belonging here in their school environment, and making sure that work is positive and productive for all. We did our CTE external review. That was both our in-house construction and auto tech programs, and Christina Mean led that and got those approved again. So those are recognized as certified programs. On the social emotional skills side, building level teams at the elementary, implementing school-wide positive behavior supports, really important work. Kind of came out of the need we were seeing through the changing student, right? Some of the behavior challenges and social emotional challenges we were seeing. This is really kind of changing that a little bit so that we're focusing on positive behavior support, more proactive and less reactive discipline and consequences. We've had our district-wide wellness days that we've maintained, and the second step resources program. That's a program that's being pushed in, resources being pushed in to our students in K through 8, teaching them key stuff like resiliency, for example, and giving them those skills and helping to build them, again, kind of look at the changing student and what was needed, empathy, resiliency, those type of characteristics. A lot of work in the professional development area, multiple course offerings for our faculty. We've really tried to make the superintendent conference days educational and informative, and just some of the topics that have been covered, number sense and essential standards. BOCES has done a regional PD that we have not participated in until this year, which this was, I think, the first year, right, where we did it, and we're looking to kind of continue that. We got positive feedback from that, able to pool our resources with our larger BOCES and school partners. Tech Valley partnership there, where we had folks work with them on project-based learning, where they're able to design and implement projects that they can bring back to their classroom. And then grading and reporting reform, again, through a partnership, Tom Gusky, who's kind of a nationally known author on this topic of looking at grading. How do you do it maybe a little more effectively and a little more fairly? A lot of work with the value of 0 and how that impacts grades and those type of things. So we started to look at that and where that's going to take us as we go forward. Special education, we have our elementary ambassadors program. That's really with our regular ed and our special ed kids working together. Our SAGES program, which we have at the high school, we moved that also down to the elementary, gives the students in those areas the opportunity to do some projects and then be able to bring them out to the community. For example, they make popcorn, sell it, right? So they actually bring it around and provide that to the students or the staff, in the district or their building. And it's a really positive kind of hands-on experience for them. We had adaptive playground equipment at West Sand Lake. Special education department did parent nights to help inform the community, and we really worked through the details of a communications classroom, which will be implemented in September for our students who are in need of that extra service at the K and 1 levels. A lot of work in technology, and again, there's been some change there, right? We've kind of been a theme this year. We have a new director, as you just approved the MOA again. Travis has moved into that role and has continued the great work that Lynn has done in a very small department that does a ton of work. I know the board heard about a lot of this during the retreat. The ClassLink Launchpad, which enables our students to be able to log in quickly and easily, as opposed to having to memorize, many passwords and IDs for the applications they have to use. We've continued the one-to-one initiative. We're also built a replacement plan of staff devices so that we have those on a rotation now and cycling through. A new help desk ticket system, which I believe was about 20 years old and has now been implemented to improve that process. We continue to focus on cybersecurity and hardening our security practices, looking at a long-range plan for our wireless network and our wired network. A lot of these things are obviously put in, and if we don't maintain them and have a plan in place to replace them, we're in trouble. And then reducing our e-waste through recycling partnerships.
Is e-waste hardware?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. And then on the business side, of course, the celebration of the budget passing, 67%, and the bus proposition also passing, which is great news. We thank the community for their support there. Big work at the capital project, current project. You don't get to say those words very often. Under budget and ahead of schedule, and significantly under budget and significantly ahead of schedule. Basically a full year, and the budget it really allowed us to be able to increase the scope, the amount of work they were getting done. Again, a ton of thanks, praise goes to Mosaic, our architect, and Tony Armlin, our owner's rep. The amount of detail and time they've put on this project is pretty substantial, and we're very happy with that and the work that's being done. And then we thank the board for approving the referendum for the next capital project. You approved it in July, and we're preparing for that vote in September. The business office really focused their successes on the $100,000 projects, which we continue to work on, really improving our security. That's where that money's been spent, and a whole variety of areas throughout the district. They had a clean audit for the year that ended on June 30th, 23. That audit was done last year. Obviously a big accomplishment there. And then joined that cooperative, which has led to an increase in revenue by 261% on our investments. So good work there by the folks in the business office. Transportation inspection rate passing a rate of 98.68. Obviously very impressive there, especially given the wear and tear our buses go through here in this district with the terrain. New camera system and now live GPS installed on all our buses. A lot of that came, if you remember, through the stop arm cameras. We kind of made that partnership. The county was instrumental in that. We thank them for leading that for us. And then once we got them in and we kind of had this deal, we realized that we weren't just getting cameras, we were getting a lot of them, and they were actually really, really, really high quality. We talked about hiring on a previous slide on the instructional side. Very impressive, and I know Mark talked about that during the retreat. To bring in 8 drivers and 7 attendants was huge. And then the 19A audit, which deals with training and paperwork, 100% passing on that audit, which was done by the state. Food service implemented the community eligibility provision status and offered free meals to all students. So we've got it, which is great news. Obviously, a little bit of a lift. I know Ricky talked about that a little bit in the retreat, about then having to provide meals for all those students, right? From the logistics of the cooking to the serving, the lines. So to work through all that, but obviously for the benefit of our students. Our participation rate has increased by several percentage points in breakfast and lunch. And that's a huge thing for us. Thankful to Ricky and his team, what they've done, and even got featured in a New York State Breakfast Highlights magazine for some of the work that we're doing. Building grounds, always very busy. You can see some of the work they've done there. The athletic training room, which was really just subpar for our student athletes, and all of our students who are utilizing it, has now been improved. Actually has a space there that they can get the work done that they have to. Rachel, our trainer, is outstanding and has done a great job for our students, and we really needed that space. We took a closet that was used for coaches and officials, and they turned it into a little bit of a better area. And it's also, so they were able to split it so that we're able to use it for a community closet, which helps out our students who go there to get clothing. And it's actually kind of created some shelving and some space there for them to be able to go and utilize half of it, and the other half is kind of fixed up a bit. So our coaches who aren't employees and officials, when they come here, have a place that is clean and easily accessible. Again, rekey the doors that's on there. The numbering of doors and lettering of the parking lots is in process. A lot of that work has been done prior to, in terms of getting it ready, and now we're actually starting to see that. The numbers on the doors were literally put on today, I believe, around the high school. So you might actually have seen that they're blue and gold numbers. Again, these are all safety-based. Whether it's, say, we have an issue, unfortunately, with the student, we need to direct an ambulance to what door it's going to, or if we have an issue in a parking lot, we can now say, hey, it's in parking lot 3 or whatever. A lot of work there at Miller Hill, repainting the first floor, removed the old fish pond and created more storage. And there was a deteriorating planter in the front that they got out, and also that created additional playing surface for recess. So a lot of those projects that our folks take on that you kind of wonder how they do it with such a small staff and to the quality they do. So very thankful for them. Looking at the buildings, Miller Hill, One School, One Book initiative. Student council started there. Field trips exploring some local landmarks. They did their tree planting in grade 5, introduced a family reading night, and the return of welcome back to school ice cream event. So positive things happening at Miller Hill. Post and Kill talked about their classroom pride activities and their school-wide PES Pride assemblies, recognizing over 100 students as a PES Proud recipients. Hosted the band, Flame the Band. Return of the PES Science Fair. Had a really high participation in band, orchestra, and chorus. We're seeing those numbers higher at the elementary as well as at the middle school as they're coming up through the system. They also did a One School, One Book and did some raising of money for local charities to the tune of $1,700. At West Sand Lake also did the One School, One Book initiative, and they added some things there with a STEM collaboration with the high school and the middle school robotic club, creating some bristle bots, had a virtual visit from the author. They're in year 2 there of their PBIS, positive behavior system that they're implementing the West Sand Lake Way. They had the ambassadors group, which again was a bridge between our regular and our special ed students. The 1201 classes are now housed there, and they've really formed great relationships and providing kids opportunities to interact, and a lot of K-Kids community service projects. Over at Algonquin, mindfulness training for all staff through a New York State grant. They've added the Second Step Anti-Bullying. You heard about Second Step before, or anti-bullying program. The monthly team building Tuesday they've added, replaced Warrior Wednesday. The first ever Algonquin Games, which was a huge success at the end of the year. They had a couple classes, a Keys to Success, which kind of features some of those organizational type skills in grade 6, things that they thought would be good skills for the students to learn as they enter middle school. A journalism elective, the solar eclipse event, which was extremely well attended by both students and staff, and the 11th consecutive year of being a Gold Star No Place for Hate, which obviously is something we're very proud of. At the high school, reduction of discipline incidents by almost 40%. They had the We Make AP a Great Place to Be, character building and school culture initiative, elevating student voices, did great work again with some Questar run. Schools outside of here did work with them, brought it back to make the school more representative and for our students. Warrior renaming work led by the high school folks, the structured study halls we mentioned, the advisory supported advisories that helped with getting students to pass those classes. They did wellness programming and speakers and added 4 new college and high school courses. And then real briefly, looking ahead to 24-25, what's in store. Year 2 of that grant work with the University of Albany, focusing our questions on that PLC process of 3 and 4. Spent a lot of time on questions 1 and 2 now as we move through this process, lay the foundation for the work coming. Deepening our understanding of AI, which we talked about at the retreat. We're going to go back to AP Transforms, which is Professional Development Day, which will be led by our own folks here. And then 3 more curriculum renewal groups coming through, K-8 writing, world languages, and music.
Gonna be a pain.
Yep.
Questions 3 and 4?
That poster up there. It's what do we do if our students don't understand what we're teaching, and what do we do if they do? So it's basically about interventions and extensions. So we focus the years on what we want them to learn and how do we know if they learned it. Now we're focusing on what they don't.
Okay, thank you.
And the last slide is on the business side, what's going on. As you know, the fleet electrification study, as we move, we think, systematically through a process for that. That study is the first big step that we're taking. Upgrading 3 of our buses with storage boxes for athletic team transportation. Added another wheelchair bus based on student need. The community eligibility provision status has been extended, so it's another year, which is great for free lunches and breakfast. Talking about bringing vendors in on those celebratory weeks to sample new products. Tree removal is going to be a big thing as we go forward. I think there was a time when we planted a lot of trees here. The problem is those trees have now grown and they're impacting both the ground and the roof and the sides of the building. So we need to actually undergo quite a bit of tree removal, more so than just like Aaron's folk cutting down trees, but actually getting someone in because they're doing damage to gutters and roofing. And we have issues with stuff below ground that has been compromised. So that'll be a big initiative. Drainage at the Algonquin football field, and of course, the capital project referendum. So there you go. There's the district in 30 minutes. But some really, I think, important accomplishments, some great successes, and we thank the board for their support, and certainly the faculty, staff, administration for their great work.
Jim, that was really impressive. You just busted that right out. That's like a ton of information. Does anybody have questions, comments? Adam, you fill out?
No, I don't have anything substantive, honestly. Like, that was a huge presentation of a huge year in 30 minutes, and I was gonna walk over to Matt and give him $20, and I said, you know, I had the under, but it was something, so thank you.
If you factor out the cough, it was like probably 20 minutes. It was 10 minutes of coughing too.
I agree, a lot of good information in there. And we appreciate that you keep us updated on most things throughout the year, so none of this was a surprise, but it was good to refresh our memory and keep us moving forward and looking forward, even with all the accomplishments behind us, so thank you.
You are welcome.
Jim, I want to make sure, there was one slide that talks about the music participation at the elementary level, that it's increasing, right? That's, I understood that right? Like it's,
Yeah, that's correct. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
I just wanted to make, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I know you don't, I just wanted to make sure, like.
Yeah.
If there's anything
it was
to
just
add.
fast, and then I was like, did he just say?
Yeah, no, our numbers are high, very high at the elementary right now, for both Coral and then at the middle, we're above where we were pre-COVID at our middle school participation as well. So we're seeing our music numbers come back up and beyond where we were prior.
That's right, that was one thing I wanted to highlight, that as long as I understood it correctly. Just because it is, I think we always underestimate the importance of music education, and it's sort of a side gig. But it has been an issue, especially at other schools that are struggling to build programs back up. And then at higher levels, that one of the things that we saw with COVID was that higher levels of music education participation really took a hit, because those third, fourth, fifth graders didn't get in the door when the door was supposed to be open. It was closed because of COVID. And so they're kind of like, well, what are we gonna do? I'm sure Juliet's gonna be fine, but everybody else is, getting a little stressed about it. That was number one about it. Number two, for those folks who want to focus on STEM, I'm gonna said this before, I'll say it again, the extent to which the research indicates just how much better kids do at math and science when they have music education at some point, especially in their young lives. I couldn't pull it out of my brain right now, but it kind of blew me away when it's participation in some kind of music, being able to read music, which I've long since forgotten, improves math scores, and it's a very tight relationship, and so that just was very sensitive. I just want to make sure. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That was awesome. It's our second public comment period, and we still have computers, so it's okay. Except for us, we're here. So we'll go to board member reports. Michelle?
That's coming from my quarterly report.
Oh, yep.
Just setting
I was like, and, I just wanted to thank you both for all the effort and energy that went into the retreat. It was great. It takes a lot to have the trust and vulnerability that the staff and your whole team has projected in the retreat. So thank you guys for bringing that to the table, shedding some light on it, and letting us be a part of the process. I don't have anything.
Shall we go or?
Well, so,
should you
yeah,
guys go first?
Jess, do you want to wait till, do you want to go in order, or do you want to give Adam the last word?
I'm sure I'll have nothing to say after
Right.
that. I did also want to thank you for the retreat. That's like one of my favorite meetings, if you will, of the year, because we really get to spend some time with the administrators on a level that we normally, in our day-to-day work, we don't get to do. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the time that we have to spend with them, so thank you.
Adam, I am gonna give you the last word, so I'll just do my 2 cents right now. I'm gonna second what these guys said about the retreat. It's a highly educational for us to be able to make decisions. I just want to say one thing about the capital project as we really take it. Just Adam's gonna has way more information and better explained, but I will say that in my experience, my father used to do project management in schools in Massachusetts. And he was the guy who kind of came in when stuff started going sideways, when stuff started getting off the rails, over budget, the timelines of money, he'd have to come in and reel it back in. It was much more expensive to get my dad on the phone and bring him in than to do it right the first time. And so that's kind of my 2 cents as we go with this capital project. And I think everybody here on this board is highly sensitive to making sure we are spending our dollars as efficiently and effectively as we can in the first time out of the gate instead of anything look backwards and go. And now we're and getting ourselves into a pickle. And so, getting it right before costs balloon is what my dad taught me. So that's my 2 cents on the capital project, and I look forward to talking more about it. I think it's a well thought out project. I'm going to go over to Adam.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So it looks different from this angle. It's nice. I like to just look at numbers and correlate them and see what trends are and just play with them and let them speak to me. So Jim, but actually Carrie and Kim were kind enough to provide some data that I messed around with over my summer vacation, week before last. And I put together some trends on just some stuff that I saw was interesting. But my disclaimer here is that this is my personal analysis and doesn't necessarily reflect the opinions of the district. And this data hasn't been audited by any third party either, as far as I know. So having said all that, this is what I did on my summer vacation. So this is a graph of the number of students that we have, that we educate each year. And I remember from all of our financial aid talks that Governor Hochul says, your attendance is declining, your costs should be declining. And so enrollment stopped declining about 4 years ago, but that is overall enrollment. So total number of students has been relatively flat for the last 4 years and going into next year. Special needs students was also kind of flat until COVID, and then whoosh, 16% increase in just 3 years. Now, this is important to note because our special needs kids cost a lot more to educate than non-special needs kids, right? Think about special buses, special transportation, additional aids, maybe contracting with specialized staff, or maybe even specialized facilities. So they can cost a lot more. Again, Governor Hochul tells us that we should spend less money because enrollment is declining. But in reality, we have the same number of students to educate, but we keep getting more of the students that cost more to educate. So that's important to know. Looking at another factor in terms of enrollment, this is students per instructional staff. So we have instructional staff and non-instructional staff. Instructional staff are teachers. And so as enrollment declined,
we reduced instructional staff appropriately. So this is just good financial management that we achieved. This curve follows like the sort of our overall enrollment curve, as it should. This one shows total expenditures per student, and it's rising. So I'll take a little bit to explain this. Total expenditures is essentially the whole budget, right? So if you take the whole budget and you divide it up each year among the number of students that we have to educate, it's how much are you spending per student each year, right? So we increased our costs per student by 40% over the past 10 years. And I just said that we had good financial management of the school because students per instructional staff stayed about the same or decreased, as we were decreasing enrollment. But increasing 40% over the past 10 years sounds like really poor financial management. So I wanted to look at another factor to qualify this, and that factor is called inflation. So inflation can be measured a bunch of ways, but sort of the more universal way to measure it in the US is through something called the Consumer Price Index. And this is done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What they do is they look at the prices of this set of a whole bunch of things. And then they, look in different geographies about like, how much does this cost this month? And then next month happens and they go and they look at the same things and they look at the same prices and they add up how much does this cost? All right, and how much did this change since last year? So it's the year over year that they measure every month. So like we're in August, so the July year over year numbers either just came out or will come out. So we'll see as of July, how much did prices increase in the last year since last July, right? That's how the CPI works. So the top graph here explains the raw inflation rates over the last 10 or 11 years. And let me tell you a little bit about how inflation actually happens. So inflation happens when something causes prices to begin to increase, but it's got to be kind of a big thing. So for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the global petroleum supply was hampered since Russia is a big supplier and now there are all sanctions against Russia, don't buy Russian oil. So supply and demand, there was less oil, prices went up for oil. And companies that rely on oil, like airlines, trucking companies, and really all shipping companies, couldn't afford to just absorb that additional cost. So they had to raise their prices to get stuff and people around. This meant that it cost everyone else more money to ship their products. They couldn't absorb the additional costs either, so they had to raise their prices too. And so everything started costing more. So employees needed wage increases, or they were going to have to go work for someone else who could pay them more. Thus, things cost more and people make more, and that's how inflation happens. But it wasn't just Russia invading Ukraine, which caused this enormous spike in inflation, right? Even before that happened, COVID had caused a lot of supply chain issues, which made some things harder to get. And so prices for those things went up and caused inflation as well. I remember shopping for a used car for my son 2 years ago, and prices were ridiculous because the chips that were needed for new cars just weren't available. So new cars weren't available. So suddenly the only cars that were available were used cars and the prices were through the roof. This is how inflation happens. It happens on a big scale. And then I think it's Warren Buffett said, inflation happens slowly and then suddenly. And so that's how it happens. So getting back to my graphs, the top graph shows the annual rate of inflation. And for the first 8 years of the period shown, it was roughly 2% or less, which is kind of what economists and the government, stock market, and everybody wants. They want a little bit of growth, but they don't want it too much, right? Then we had COVID and Russia invading Ukraine, and then we had that big spike. So that's what happened there. And now it's starting to come down, which is good. The bottom graph shows how inflation impacts money over time as it compounds. So you've probably seen a graph like this where you invest money and you're getting interest on that money, and that money's slowly growing. Well, this is sort of the opposite. This is how prices are going up slowly and then faster and faster as inflation is making those prices grow and go up. So something that cost $1 in 2013 now costs $1.32 for the same thing. That's inflation, how it works. Just costs more. Your money is worth less today than it was years ago. Okay? 32% more for that period of time. So this whole inflation thing is an important factor because in my last graph, I'm going to do it right? Yeah. Nope, sorry. My last graph, I said over a 40% increase in the last 10 years. So now if I apply a factor for inflation, if I adjust a bunch of data for inflation and I take a look at the total expenditures per student, our expenditures per student increased only 7% more than inflation over the past 10 years. It's not 40% or more, it's just 7% more. But more importantly, those costs dropped by 10% over the past 4 years. And I'm really going to focus on this 4-year period now because that's when our enrollment's been flat, but our special needs enrollment has started spiking. So since COVID, things have gotten weird, and this is part of the weirdness, all right? So special needs, which are more expensive, that enrollment's increasing, but our expenditures per student is decreasing. Why are we spending less per student overall when we have more expensive students joining us? Well, this is our foundation aid graph. For the first 3 years, and this is adjusted for inflation again, okay? So for the first 3 years, foundation aid was increasing faster than inflation, right? That means we got more value each of those 3 years, year over year, right? That's where the graph slopes up. If it's sloping up, we're doing better than inflation, right? Then for a while, the graph is flat, which means we were just even with inflation. So it was like we got the same value every year. But in the last 6 years, it hasn't kept up with inflation. That's where it's sloping down. That's where inflation is beating what we're getting from foundation aid. Last year, we got 11% less value in foundation aid than we did in 2019 because of inflation. You guys get this so far? Okay. So a little less than half our funding comes from the state, and a little more than half our funding comes from local property taxes. Since the state isn't keeping up with inflation, let's see if our local property tax levy is keeping up. Nope. At least not for the last 3 years. You see how much the graph is sloping down? See how much we are being overtaken by inflation? The amount we collected to fund the school last year is almost 10% less in value than what we collected just 3 years prior because of inflation. 10% less in 3 years because of inflation. Why is this? It's due to the tax cap. We have this tax cap law that essentially says if you're going to go out for something bigger than around 2%, which is not really 2%, it can be anywhere between like 0% and 4%. But if you want to go out for something bigger than that, regardless of inflation, you need a 60% majority of vote, which is really difficult to get. If you look at the school board magazine or the newspaper thing, they talk about this few districts tried this and almost all of them failed this year, right? That's the story all the time when people try it. It's miserable to try and get it. So it's difficult and unlikely to raise taxes by more than 2 to 3% regardless of inflation. And so we don't do it. We go out for the maximum, but inflation outpaces us. So where am I? The number of students we have hasn't changed much in the last 4 years. Enrollment's flat. But the number of special needs students has increased 16% in the last 3 years. They cost much more. We're maintaining the same number of teachers per student. Taking inflation into account, foundation aid has decreased 11% in the last 6 years. Property taxes have decreased 9% in the last 3 years. And we're spending 10% less per student since 4 years ago. So because our funding is actually decreasing, we're forced to decrease the quality of our education that we provide to our kids. We have no choice. We fire staff, we increase class sizes, and we cut programs that aren't mandated. It's amazing that our class achievement at high school and the middle school have increased over the last year, right? So how do we fix it? We really get our funding, as I said, from 2 sources. It's foundation aid, which is state aid, and property taxes. Property taxes adjust themselves for inflation really slowly because they're based upon the assessed value of your house. And that assessed value generally only changes when you sell your house. So picture how long does it take for most of our town to sell their house and get a new assessed value that is appropriate to the market, right? So property taxes adjust to inflation very slowly unless you do something unnatural like reassess every house in your town, which is extremely unpopular with voters, right? I lived through it in Schenectady. They almost killed the mayor, all right? Income taxes, on the other hand, adjust themselves for inflation pretty quickly. In fact, they adjust immediately. As an employee gets a raise, they immediately pay more taxes. Hey, I got more this week. Hey, we withheld more too. That's how it happens, right? Foundation aid is funded through income taxes, all right? New York State needs to fund foundation aid to cover inflation and further to cover any shortfall in property taxes due to the stupid 2% tax cap law. This is what I plan to tell the people who've been tasked on coming up with a revised foundation aid formula later this week. So that's my presentation. Thanks for listening to me geek out on numbers. Do you guys have any questions? Because it's a lot. I will send all these slides out to all of you guys afterwards so you can look at it.
I think it's great. Yeah. So thank you very much for boiling it down. Good luck this week with your 2 minutes, but focus on those last 3 bullets on the previous slide where it's like, here's what is going on.
Yeah.
So taking the inflation into account because that is ginormous. Yeah. And also, I mean, it's hard to, I don't know how you're gonna do 2 minutes, but
Yeah, 2 minutes is hard.
yeah,
Like-
yeah, but like the number of students hasn't changed in the last 4 years. That's huge too, because you need to get that in there, but you also need to not have that detract from the other 3 bullets at the bottom saying, this is what's going on and this is your lack of funding is killing us.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, oh, sorry.
So great, thank you for spending your summer vacation doing this because I think it speaks volumes.
I agree. Thank you so much. I want to like go over this again after the kids are asleep. That, I really appreciate that. And these last 2 slides are huge in terms of just boiling it down so clearly. Yeah, those last 2 slides, if you're looking at 2 minutes, these last 2 slides that's the bang for your buck right there. Especially these 2, that the weight on property tax to make up this shortfall from the state, that doesn't keep up with inflation. And I never thought of it that way. And it's so blatantly obvious when you put it like this. So it really illustrates the lack of, options that we have to make up for, what they're doing in the state, so thanks. Did you guys want?
I have two main thoughts. Thank you for doing this. It makes complete sense to me. I mean, I've kind of suspected and we've heard through our retreats and other avenues that the spending need for special education is just increasing exponentially. The governor's concerned about keeping or the decrease of kids in seats, but ignoring special ed is really just doing a disservice to the whole equation. My one thought was, even with a decrease of 16% over 11 years, I like your bullet about how we are paying less than, we're paying a 10% less per student, regardless of sizes in general, at a time when I think schools are expected to do more. And kind of just like the one big thing for me, in addition to all this, is I consider public education to be the great equalizer, where every kid is supposed to be given an opportunity. And by the state decreasing their funding, they're putting it more on the property owners. To the extent, we already know that that's not going to be successful. What you're really doing is you're not equalizing. You're separating out the rich from the poor.
Yep.
And the education disparities are going to be extensive. And on top of that, I have concerns for what the future workforce is going to be as a result, because we can't undo that. It's frustrating. It's been frustrating me for a while. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And I appreciate all your efforts to do this. Especially your son graduated. So thank you for taking the time. I don't say you don't have skin in the game. You're a member of the district, and I'm happy that you're a part of the board, and I hope you continue to be so post this year. I could put my plug in early. But, I'm going to encourage the people that I see in our district to take a look at this, in addition to all the other parts of the presentations from tonight, which were also good. But just if they want to understand the numbers, I think this is a good, straightforward way to understand we can't ignore inflation, and we can't ignore special education costs. So thank you and good luck. Maybe if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes after, kind of let us know what your thoughts, like what your perception was of how it went.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a long day. But within 24 hours, I'll let you guys know how it goes.
That's acceptable, thank you.
I had a question on the last slide you had, last two actually. Yes, so the only thing was, if you said we're maintaining the same number of teachers per student.
Yep.
But students' enrollment remains the same.
Yep.
But then we are also decreasing teachers through attrition. So.
Interesting, yeah.
I just not for me, but for if you're going to present that up there, someone else might. I don't, does that make sense?
I get what
I
you're
guess
saying.
I don't understand. I guess it's like a little confusing to me.
I think it may be the student distribution in the school is changing, so I'm not sure, but you're right, I get
You
you.
made both of those
Those two
statements,
things
and
can't be true, so,
That's what
Yeah.
and that's why I have just for your upcoming meeting, because someone might say, wait a second, if enrollment's flat and we are decreasing teachers through attrition or firing, I think is what you said, how are we maintaining the same number of teachers per student? That was one thing. And then twofold, the second slide, more of just another clarity question is, are you saying the foundation aid you're suggesting be funded through income taxes?
it's already funded through
And it's
income
funded through income
taxes.
taxes now?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's why I was like, it made sense what you were saying, so I was, okay. That's what I wanted, just clarity on that question. Again, I commend you on going the extra steps and miles, to put this together. It definitely sheds light on a serious problem. I mean, we're all in the meetings, we're there with you, so whatever we can do to support and
Yeah.
help.
Thanks.
I think you can explain your first issue with the grant money that we have, the COVID grant money, because we were able to maintain some teachers through that time because of the grant money. And now, I think we're gonna see it change next year, the year after, if things stay status quo, we are gonna keep the same number of students and we're gonna have quite the decreasing amount of instructional staff. But I think because the last couple of years, we've had that extra money, we've been able to keep it flat. And so I think you can explain it that way, because I think that's real.
True, it's
Yeah,
just,
no,
yeah,
no.
such a small, time, if your focus was the last two slides,
Yeah,
that would be something I might just
I'm
skip
not-
right over that.
I can't use the slides.
Oh,
It's just to stand up in 2 minutes and speak, so.
I gotcha, okay,
This is in
Makes sense.
Gilderland,
So I'm-
right? The Gilderland thing on, when is it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So I'm good to speak, but I want to go back and figure out where the inconsistency comes from in the numbers. So like, it's a really good thing to.
Yeah, I
ask.
want you to pack a good sucker punch. so.
Sure.
I want you to take it away from them so they can't question you on that statement, that's all.
But actually, can I ask, are you sending, there's the portal, like anybody can send in, I've got a slot to speak, but there's a portal that we could all send in.
Upload this.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
that's my
maybe-
question, can you send the slides in?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
research
And-
out
and-
Michelle's
yeah.
question and then also add notes to each slide so they understand my talking points. And
Yeah.
so it's
I
self-contained.
definitely think you should send that in.
Okay.
And attach it and say, it's a lot, it's a little bit at Econ 101, which I appreciate very much.
Well, yeah, because the average person doesn't have an accounting background, right? So it's like, it's really, we talk about this all the time, like, let's just put it in layman's terms, like, and make it for every person to be able to understand the reality of it, because we don't get to go into that kind of depth every meeting to discuss. So where it's really impactful, right? Like, you don't need, and we talk about inflation, but how does that really affect the district,
Right.
So this is great.
Yeah, I want the Rockefeller folks to understand the extent to which we understand what's going on. It's not, we're not just wringing our hands. And I think that they should be able to look at your presentation with or without your notes and understand, like, this is what they do.
Thank you so much.
That's great, I think, seriously.
Thanks. That is my board report, and I make a motion to adjourn.
And I will get a second from anybody, just D, seconds. And all those in favor of adjourning this meeting, that is unanimous. Linda, and we are adjourned. Did everybody sign the
Yes.
thing that got to you? Did that make it back to Linda or is it here?
No, I'm good, sorry.